Basically, AETCOM is enabling professional identity. We need to teach this. And how do we go ahead teaching this to students who are the future doctors, the young faculty, and sometimes even the seniors do require to know what AETCOM is all about. We started this years ago at Sri Ramchandra Medical College in the name of ProDev, which is professional development. Now, this was taught as a lecture, and we used to have small group discussions, and we used to have OSCEs, and we did it in various forms. And initially there were hitches, there were less attendance, students weren't interested, and then we had to make certain things compulsory. And it was a hard ride initially, but later on it settled down. Now it was a day of joy when the Medical Council of India made this a formal program, part of the entire MBBS curriculum. Now, when something is made part of the curriculum, we know the students are much more receptive to whatever we are going to be teaching. Now, how do we go ahead doing AETCOM? Enabling professional identity. What is professional identity? I know we all have a type of social identification, and they say, oh, that person is a doctor. May not be the same as it was 20 years ago or even 15 years ago, but still the tag of being a doctor does command some amount of respect. I'm talking in the current scenario. Now we know that with the onset of COVID and this pandemic that has rocked the entire world, rocked the entire global community, we know that professional identity of doctors have gained even more importance. Now, what do you actually teach, and how do we go ahead doing this for AETCOM? We need to know that the young faculty and the students need to require to know what are the roles and responsibilities, values, ethical standards, which are consistent with practices accepted by their specific profession. This is what actually professional identity means. And this professional identity, it relates to not only medicine, to various other professions. So it's behaving professionally, working with professional autonomy, having a professional identity. And when you encompass all this, you have what is known as professionalism. You are exhibiting professionalism. So what it basically means: autonomy, acting in a particular situation as a doctor; competence, how well your analytical thinking is when a patient comes and you are managing the situation; and how you feel, the relatedness, what kind of empathy are you demonstrating when you are seeing patients. And this empathy that you are demonstrating needs to go across various divisions of patients. So basically, it is how you think as a doctor, how you feel for the patient, and how you act as a professional, and all this encompassed together as professional identity. Changing personal identities to meet expectations. Now, when people outside the medical professions acknowledge students as future health professionals, the students will gradually alter their identity over time to meet the expectations associated with their profession. We know that they all join at a very young, tender age of 17, or at the maximum 18 from school. So it's a transition from school life to a college life. And it's not just college life, it's a professional life. And they are going to be acknowledged as future health professionals. So whatever they wish to do as young students, which is very much natural, they all know that they have a little boundary within which they need to confine. And we find that students require to alter their identity over time because they need to match the expectations of the community and society, of the peer and of the faculty which is associated with their profession. So we need professional identity formation. What is this? It's a process of internalizing the profession's core values and beliefs. And this is the goal of medical education AETCOM. So we want them to internalize. You can't keep on teaching them various things. It is how they start realizing that they are going to be professionals and how they have to go ahead and do. Now I find almost all boys here unshaven, which was hardly ever found years ago. Doctors, as students, or even as professionals, were required to dress in a particular manner and they were well shaven. And now you can't say that to anybody. And these are various things that we are changing finding the change over the period of time. Ultimately, it's resulting in the person thinking, acting, and feeling like a physician. So this needs to get initiated from within. Professional identity is constructed at the level of the individual, whereas professionalism is constructed by the community and medical profession as a whole. What does a patient expect a doctor to be? What does the community expect doctors to be? Within the borders of what they require, because I know sometimes they are going across the borders and expecting certain things beyond what basically doctors can actually go ahead and do. It's a process developed through teaching principles and appropriate behavioral responses to the stresses of being a physician. So we need to teach our students, how do you respond to a particular situation? If you have a patient who is on a ventilator, who is an elderly man, who is the father of 3 siblings, 3 children, and who is probably not going to make it because the intensivist feels that it is just on the ventilator that he is surviving. He is almost brain dead. And among the 3 children, one of them feel that the ventilator can probably be weaned off, while the other 2 feel, no, it has to continue because it's our dad and we need to do our best. Now, what does the physician do? These are difficult situations. These are challenges. So what do we do to match the ethical standards? What do we do so that we are legally within the boundaries? So these are certain things that we need to teach, and these are being taught in AETCOM. Don't you think it's something so important which we never were taught? At least a lot of us who graduated decades ago were never even taught, and these were learned over a period of time or watching the senior faculty behave. Now, when I say watching the senior faculty behave, we need to understand that we are all being watched by our students. The senior faculty are watched by the junior faculty. So the seniors have a large role to be exhibiting total professionalism. If we did something that was not professional, but we taught what is being professional, I don't think the students are going to be impressed, nor are the young faculty going to be inspired or motivated. So I think it's very important that the seniors, the senior leaders, the senior faculty, they lay the foundation for this so that it gets easier for the rest to imbibe. Critical reflection, very, very important component of AETCOM. It's building professional identity. It's a self-assessment of values, the attitudes, beliefs, reactions to various experiences, and learning needs in conjunction with deepened experiential learning. Anything that we learn out of experience sticks to our head decades and for a lifetime. So we know that it sticks to our head for a long, long period, and it's difficult to shake it off. At the end of a posting, When we discuss the marks with the students, I say, what do you think you would give yourself? What mark will you give yourself? And then if that matches with what we have given, good. If it doesn't, then we will explain to them that this is what we expect out of a student. So it's always good to critically reflect and introspect and do a self-assessment and see what are the things that are my strengths and what are the things in me that require improvement. As a professional, as a medical student, as a young faculty, I think each of us need to do it. And we need to build on our strengths and we need to improve on what are the areas that we can get better. Students actively construct professional identity through interacting with patients, the mentors, colleagues within complex learning environments. It's not just a learning through classes like other professions do. They go ahead and see patients in the wards, in the labor rooms, in the intensive care, and various other emergencies and various other situations. So they learn in complex learning environments. So these students, medical students, need to construct the professional identity. I was very happy when I was conducting exam for the 4th and 5th semesters, and we were conducting history taking for them. So we bring patients and we ask them to take history in our presence and we evaluate how they communicate. So all our teaching is now not asking patients to take history on their own. Patients are brought to the classes, the clinical classes. They are asked to take history in our presence and we see what is their body language, how do they talk, do they have any non-verbal communication, various other things. And one thing that I found was very wonderfully done by all the 4th and 5th semesters was they introduced themselves. They said, Vanakamma, my name is Aneet and I am நான் வந்து இப்போ 4th second year படிக்கிறேன். நான் உங்ககிட்ட சில questions கேட்க போறேன். So this is something that we taught them, but we never thought that they're going to be saying it to the patients. So we found that that's something very, very good that they were learning this year when we were conducting exams. So early contact and discourse between the patient and student is a very, very key, important driving force of identity construction, because they know that they have to be behaving in a particular manner when they are talking to patients. Emotional competency, I think very, very important. Intelligent quotient and emotional quotient, EQ. Very important to have emotional competency. How do we treat others? How do we treat our mentors, our peers, our colleagues, our juniors, our subordinates? That speaks volumes of professional behavior. If you're going to teach professionalism, but you didn't know how to treat someone with dignity, whatever their profession is, I think it doesn't make any sense at all. Even if you're handling a housekeeping person or a ward technician, a nurse, a junior, a head of some other department, I think it's important that we behave professionally. And what is one thing very, very important? Resilience. What is resilience? Responding to stress in a healthy way. And very importantly, you need to bounce back after challenges and you need to go stronger. So we learn from every challenge that we face, and every time that we have a fall, we need to bounce back at the earliest, and we need to learn from our experience and don't repeat it. And that's what mistakes are for. We can commit mistakes, but we are not expected to repeat them. We need to learn from them, grow stronger, get better, and become more and more emotionally competent, because this is a very important component of professionalism. And this is something that we need to inform students that they require to have this. And of course, we need to demonstrate this. Okay, so there are 3 general strategies for assessment. Observations as part of clinical assessments, developmental benchmarks, and assessment of learning environments as well as considering aspirational elements outside the arena of competencies. So that's a typo error. 3 general strategies for assessment. So we need to observe. So when someone is talking to a patient, examining as a faculty, the students need to observe. Then you have some benchmarks. Okay, you are expected to do this kind of things when you're talking to patients. Then assessment of learning environment. So very important. There should be an appropriate learning environment, and there should be little confidentiality provided to the patient who is giving you the history. And the others have to be seated and behave in a professional manner, so the patient does not feel ridiculed, or the patient is free enough to share his or her experiences or complaints. As a profession, we often struggle with knowing our own identity. So students need to be taught that their professional identity extends beyond their practice setting. I always ask the students, I take soft skills for the interns. So every 2 months, I have a batch of interns for whom I take soft skills. So I say, how many of you here, when you are driving a car or a two-wheeler, would stop when the traffic signal is red and there is no policeman to man the signal and there is no other vehicle too? So very few people will say that they will stand by till it turns green, and the rest will say, if nobody is there, I'm just going to jump the signal and move around. And then I will ask, what if you were driving in UK or in the US? And then they'll think a little bit and then say, probably I wouldn't do that. I said, why? Because there are CCTVs, we will be recorded and we will be fined. So you need integrity. And what is integrity? Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching you. So you don't need policing. You don't need somebody to be watching you all the time to say whether to see whether you're doing the right things. So integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching you. So students need to be taught that's a very important component of AETCOM, that you need to have integrity and your professional identity need to extend beyond your practice setting, which is very important. Professional identity formation must occur along with the student's own identity formation. So our role as teachers to provide students with experiences. There are a lot of experiences where we have not done well and we have learned and we have improved, and this can probably be shared. So this may cause them to question the previous identity beliefs in a safe environment. So they start practicing, reflecting, and reconciling these conflicts. So very important then to share our experiences, because that will let them know that we have created certain mistakes, but we have learned from them, and let them learn from our mistakes and then do things better. Assessing professional identity is hard. It's extremely hard. That's why we say it's hidden curriculum. And how do we assess them? They may be prim and proper on the day of assessment and not do so at the rest of the time. So it's extremely difficult because professional identity needs to be consistent. It needs to be consistent. It's not that you are doing a show in front of others where you behave in a particular manner. Professionalism needs to be part of your identity. It's important to remember that graduation day is not the finish line, which is marking the completion of professional identity formation. We need to teach them and tell them this. What does the doctor of the future look like? A key competency for future physicians will be to acknowledge the unknown and know how to explore them. I always tell the students, if you don't know how to put a Riles tube as an intern, don't experiment. Have someone to teach you or have someone to train or supervise you, and please go ahead and do. The oath of Hippocrates will never die as long as physicians exist in this world, because do no harm is the bottom line of every physician's professionalism. So very important for our future physicians and the young faculty to know, acknowledge the unknown. Know that you are not always going to be in the comfort zone. And the moment you move out of your comfort zone, that is where your growth begins. And that is when your change starts. What does the doctor of the future look like? We need to teach students, residents, and faculty to relinquish the dominance model. We are no longer in the paternalistic dominant model. We have patients having sheets and leaves of downloaded material from Google who come with various kinds of knowledge. And we know how much of COVID vaccine has been hyped in the media, and how much of debates have happened in the media by persons who are not doctors. And so we know that we are all on a huge lens where people with half-baked knowledge are going to be questioning us all the time. So the dominance model has to go away and give way to where we are just facilitators. We give them options. The decision making is by them. But then if we know that they are going to decide on things which are not too good, we can influence them in a very subtle manner so that they accept what is good for them. But we are not the deciding factors. We are not the ones who are going to say, please do this, and not this. So earlier, physicians were the boss. And in its place now, we need to teach a model that is a merger of the transformational and emergent leadership. So leadership is also changing. Leadership is no longer sitting on a tall pedestal and looking down at everybody in a condescending manner. That doesn't work anymore. And if you are a leader or a physician of that cadre, you're not going to survive for too long. You're going to be unpopular, and people are not going to learn from you. Information technology, very important, order of the day. You can't be the doctor of the past, and you can't say, in those days we never had this, but still we went ahead and did these things. The moment that we have changed in gadgets from cooking to various other things, I think medicine also has transformed. And the very fact that we are now doing a webinar, we are not there physically present. We are speaking with information technology technique. This will allow physicians to integrate, analyze, and critically appraise in real time. Distance have been brought so to a minuscule minimizing amount. So it's an environment that will be cognitively overwhelming. So we know that the present day students, we know how they can hold the mobile and keep texting with both hands and how savvy they are with the modern technique. So we need to get that merging happening to medicine. So they'll spend more time understanding the person in front of them and less time transactionally extracting from them information about their problems. As the patient walks in, I tell the students, observe them. Don't sit and look at your mobile or the sheet in front of you or elsewhere. As the patient walks in, watch the gait, watch the expression on the face. See whether they look happy, distressed. Are they feeling sad? Is the gait not normal? Are they looking pensive? So much can be picked up as patients walk in, they sit in front of you, they talk to you. Very important, listen to them. Don't ask curt one-liner questions and get the answer and just make the history. That doesn't make any kind of a professional doctor at all, because patients and even we as humans like to be listened to. Just making a diagnosis and enacting evidence-based treatment is not sufficient to bring health to our communities. We need to behave in a particular manner. We need to have a particular attitude. We need to respond in a very nice manner. We need to make the patient and family feel comfortable. We need them to understand that we care for them. We are compassionate, we are empathetic, and we wish to do what is good for them. And believe me, if you did that, you are earning a patient and family's goodwill for a lifetime. And that's what is the biggest thing that we can earn as doctors. not just the leaves of money that we can count at the end of the day or the amount that gets transferred to our bank accounts. I think there are a lot of goodwill accounts that we have to gather at the end of being a good physician. So the challenges of the 21st century will be to add life to the various clinical years that we are practicing as medical professionals. Emotional intelligence refers to the ability to identify and manage one's own emotions as well as the emotions of others, not just your own emotions of others. So it includes three skills: emotional awareness, be aware of what the other person's emotions are; ability to identify and name one's own emotions; and the ability to harness those emotions. It's very important. Certain people may not express what they wish to say, but when you know that they are going through an emotional turmoil, and if you are there to put that little support, let them lean on your shoulders, you are going to be a great physician. To students, I know sometimes we are a little harsh, but don't we realize that there are students who go through a lot of difficulties. And I make it a point to speak to every student of the 250, especially after I took over as the HOD. I speak to each one of them, and I know that there was one particular student who was written a note by the unit chief saying, "This boy has not attended any class. You need to give him extension, and he needs to be just given a 0, no additional tests to be given," and all that various kind of things. And then I called him and spoke to him. He just broke down and he said that his father was going through an end terminal cancer. And so he had to be taking several days of leave, and then he had to join back class. And his father has already had 3 surgeries in the by the neurosurgeons. And he's like so broken up, emotionally so distraught. He simply doesn't know how to handle this. And it took me a long time to really speak to him, give him the kind of support that he required emotionally. And then we found that he was able to little bit improve on what I make it a point to even speak to him on a WhatsApp call now and then to make sure that he feels that he's being cared for, though he has people who are not related to him. I think it's very important because we cannot be judgmental about students. I know there are students who just take things for granted, but let's remember that there are significant number of students who go through difficult situations and challenges, and we need to have that emotional intelligence, and we need to imbibe that character in them. Self and social awareness. What are my emotional strengths? What are my weaknesses? How does my current mood affect my thoughts and decision making? And is this going to affect my history taking when I'm going to talk to patients? Or is this going to affect my professional behavior? What's going on under the surface that influences what others say or do? These are important questions that we need to answer. Believe me, these questions have to be answered with a lot of thinking, with a lot of forethought, and with a lot of thoughts that actually get into ourselves. It's a huge introspection that we need to be doing. So learn to pause. We need to teach students and the faculty that we need to learn to pause. Take a moment to stop and think before you speak or act. Easy in theory, difficult in practice, but it saves you from embarrassing moments or from making commitments too quickly. So this is also one of the things that we need to teach them, because this can stress the students later on. Control your thoughts. You don't have much control over the emotion you experience in a given moment, but you can control your reaction to those emotions by focusing on your thoughts. There are students who break down when they see patients or they see kids. I remember having an intern who came back sobbing because there was a young kid who was 5-year-old and she was practically dying out of a cancer, and the parents, she was the only kid for the parents, and the parents were also breaking down, and this girl was simply not able to cope up and she'll come back crying. So we need to actually tell them and put that little strength into them to say how much of emotional control they can have. This is something very important. These are all part of ADCOM that we need to be teaching. So we need to tell them how to react to these emotions, and by focusing on thoughts on how to actually counsel the parents, on how actually you can counsel yourself so that you get a little stronger to handle these situations. Learn to benefit from criticism. Criticism is a chance to learn, even if it's not delivered in the best way. And even when it's unfounded, it gives you a window into how others think. I always tell the students when I take ADCOM, there are various kinds of feedback you may get. One is the feedback where they want you to get better. So those are constructive feedback. The others are feedback which are very judgmental and make you feel terrible. Think who is talking that. If it's someone who cares for you, give it a little thought. Maybe they are right and you can get better. If it's someone who is just saying it so that you can feel a little bad about yourself, simply shrug it off your shoulders. Don't react. Don't feel bad. Now don't break down. Okay. So this is something very important because students can feel very emotional on these feedback that is being given, including patients. So authenticity, very important component of professional behavior. Authenticity doesn't mean sharing everything about yourself to everyone all the time or to the patients. It does mean saying what you mean, meaning what you say, and sticking to your values and principles above everything else. You know that not everyone will appreciate your sharing your thoughts and feelings, but the ones who matter will. And patients who really think that you are professional will listen to you. And once they know that you are genuine and authentic in your speech, action, and behavior, your responses and emotions towards them, they will listen to you and do what you say. Demonstrate empathy, understanding others' thoughts and feelings. It helps you connect with others instead of judging or labeling others. You work hard to see things through their eyes. In this era where everybody wants to have a mobile, and half the time, whether it is senior, junior, everybody spends time only with their mobiles. I keep telling them, we have great memories to lean back. You guys have nothing to lean back. Your mobiles are not going to give you any kind of memories. Those pics that you're going to post in your Instagram or Facebook or various other social media will just fade away over a period of time. They are not going to give you any kind of memories later on. But when you demonstrate empathy to a patient and they care for you and they share their feelings to you and they create memories for you, that's going to last in your brain and mind and heart for a long time. Learn to appreciate others. All humans crave acknowledgement and appreciation. When you commend others, you satisfy that craving and build trust. So this is something you need to actually be teaching these students. Give a helpful feedback. Negative feedback has great potential to hurt the feelings of others. So we need to know how exactly we need to speak. Being curt and saying things bluntly doesn't help you, doesn't help the person who is listening. And believe me, this is for any relationship. Leave it alone to patients and doctors. Realizing this, you reframe criticism as a constructive feedback so that the person listening knows that you're being helpful instead of being brash. It's not wrong to say sorry. It takes strength and courage to be able to say you're sorry, but doing so demonstrates humility, a quality that will naturally draw others to you. I always teach them saying, however big you become, don't grow big for your shoes. Stand grounded, because humility is one thing that will speak volumes, that will really define you, that will help people remember you. It's always good to forgive and forget. You prevent others from holding your emotions hostage and allowing you to move forward. Keep your commitments, keep a planner, keep an organizer, do your time management. Very important. Don't say, oh, I have no time for anything. I have no time to call. I don't have no time to do shopping. I have no time to watch movies. I have no time to listen to music. I have no time to connect with my family. I have no time to go outing with my friends. I am a big professional who is all the time managing my time so terribly that I have no time for anything else. If you're going to do that, you're going to get stressed and you're not going to be a great professional. Learn to juggle everything. Learn to enjoy life. Learn to enjoy your professional life. It's so important. When you enjoy doing something, you never know the time pass and you never have the difficulty and you're never sad. So when you make the habit of keeping your word in everything big or small, you develop a strong reputation for reliability and worthiness, trustworthiness, and they'll say, oh, he has said that, you can trust him or her. They will keep up their word. And that's what is important. Keep your commitments. And for this, you need planning. Planning, and organizing, which I think is something very important for the young faculty to learn and for the young students to learn. They will wake up late, just ruffle up their hair, just grab something to eat. Sometimes even that doesn't happen. And they crash land because the swiping needs to happen and they look half sleepy and they will sit in class or they're going to be practicing. That's not going to be a professional behavior at all. So that's something that we need to get them to understand. So one of the greatest ways to positively impact the emotions is to help them. And this will build trust and inspire others to follow your lead when it counts. Don't tell them things that you have to do this, you have to do this. Live as an example so that they look at you and they know that I need to follow her or need to follow him because that's somebody that I get inspired and that's someone that I get motivated. Protect yourself from emotional sabotage. Individuals attempt to manipulate others' emotions to promote a personal agenda. That's why you continue to sharpen your emotional. Have this work-life balance. You need to balance family, career, health, friends. All four are absolutely important. You can't compensate one for the other. You need to give importance to your family, to your career, to your own health. How many of we as doctors, students, faculty take care of our own health? Why are doctors having cardiac arrest at the age of 40 and 50? Why is it so that doctors go through various kinds of health problems? Because we are not learning this art of work-life balance. We don't want to spend time. See, believe me, friends after a few years become your family. And then when you spend time with your friends, there's something that you will go back on your time machine. You go young, whether it's school friends or college friends. Same with your family. Look after your health. Take care of your career. Very, very important. Make your wellness a priority. Make time for self-care of mind, body, and soul. It's not just giving some blood samples and urine samples at the end of every 6 months or 1 year. How healthy is your mind? How happy do you feel? Is that generating from your heart or you're just smiling and your lips are only showing that curve, whereas you feel so heavy inside? Self-care of mind, body, and soul, absolutely important. Don't forget that you're also human. Your degree is only a part of your life. I keep telling this to students who fail and they go on antidepressants, they start breaking down. Let it not bind you. This degree is not going to influence your entire lifespan. It is important, but not the only thing. Grant yourself space and time so that you really live. I think I'm coming to the last of my slides. So all these incorporated we teach during AETCOM. Working non-stop does not make good doctors. It only makes us grumpy and tired. Have a life outside your medical career. I think there are lots of things that are very close to our hearts that we can go ahead and do it. So that is something very important. So our attitude, our communication, how ethically we need to work, how professionally we need to behave beyond our working period, and how we need to balance our work and life, how we need to take care of our family, career, health, and friends, and how we need to have integrity, doing the right thing when no one is watching, how we need to not have the dominance role and be a facilitator, and how we need to be empathetic, and how we need to be emotionally intelligent, and how we need to have empathy and be a good professional. These are important things for ADCOM. Accept that you're not perfect. Every day and every patient is a continuous learning experience. Expecting perfection is an unrealistic goal. We just keep trying every day. There's no harm in trying, but we as humans are embodiments of imperfections. We only keep getting better and better. Never be alone, find a support system, reach out to other physicians, and that is teamwork. So when we do teamwork, we are always better. It's never I, it's always we. Medical profession is demanding and never ends. And when we have more heads to think, more hands to work, and more brains to really put forward the teamwork, we will excel in handling patients. So when we have poor work-life balance, we know all these can happen. It affects relationships, it stresses you, health problems, poor sleep, aches and groans and pain, anxiety, depression, unhealthy lifestyle. And that's the basis of ADCOM. We don't want to create physicians who will be this way. And I'm sure a lot of us amongst this entire group are probably bordering on to this man standing there. And it's a lesson that we need to learn, that we shouldn't be ending up this way. Good doctors understand responsibility better than privilege. And good doctors practice accountability better than business. Thank you all for the patient listening. Thank you so much.